Okay, welcome everyone. This is section 4.1, sampling and surveys. And today we look at the types of sampling. We did this before, but we're going to just go over it quickly. So the first thing, we need to identify the population and the sample in a statistical study or in any project that we give. Then we're going to be identifying the voluntary response sampling, the convenience sampling, and explain how those two methods can lead to bias. Then we're going to be describing the selection of random sampling or simple random sampling, SRS, and how we use table or technology to use the SRS. And then we're going to be describing the sample using stratified random sampling and how we distinguish between stratified random sampling from cluster sampling and give an advantage to each of the method. So we're going to be starting with the definitions first. What is a population? A population is a statistical study in the entire group, or when we have a study, we have a large group and we take a small portion of that group, and that small portion is the sample, and the large group is the population. So the population is the entire group of individuals that we want to collect information about. When we have a census, it means that we're going to be collecting the information from every single person in the population. That is a census, like the census of the United States of 2020, where they collected the information from every single person or about every single person. Every single individual in the population is concerned and is collected from whom the information is collected. The sample is a subset, is a small portion of the population, which we actually collected the data from. So we collected the data not from everybody, but from a sample. A census, we don't have a sample in the census. When we are talking about the census, there is no sample. We take all the population. We use the sample when we have not, or when we are not using a census, when you're using different studies. Like for example, in the elections, how many people what is the percentage who will be electing, for example, Trump or Biden? We cannot ask every single person about who's going to be winning, but we're going to be taking a sample from the population of the United States who are able or who are eligible to vote. And from that sample, we make an inference or a decision about the whole population, whether the whole population will be voting for Trump or for Biden. But we say 30%, for example, are voting for Trump, 60% are voting for Biden, 10% are not really decided at all. And sometimes politicians, they use the undecided portion. If they find that 30% are going for Trump, 30% are going for Biden, and then the other 40% is still there, it's not decided, then the candidates, they target those who are not decided to attract them to their side. So the sample is what we study, what we collect the information from. So this is the population here in the diagram, and this is a sample. The sample is small portion of the population, and so we collect the information from the sample, and then we make an inference after we collect the information. We study that information, we analyze it, we come out with the results, and we make an inference about the population. So the inference is we make a guess about the population. We make a decision about the whole population. Okay. So if, for example, we say here that that in Origins High School, we study how many people are having A's, how many people are having B's, how many people are having C's. So we do not go to everyone and we check, but we check a certain people, like we have checked 30 people or 40 people from among the 400 and so students, and we make a decision. We say that there are 10% who are having A's, there are 30% who are having B's, there are 40% who are having D's or whatever, and from that we come to a decision about the population, and we say that in Origins High School, this is what is happening. So the idea of sample survey is when we want to make a study, we need to take a sample and choose our sample. And from that sample, we do the survey. And after we do the survey, we collect the information and we study it and we analyze it. So choosing a sample from a large varied population is not really that easy. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to choose the sample. In the projects that you did, we did not really bother much about how the sample is chosen. But what we worked on, or what we were concerned about, is what ways we can get the information. But we did not really select it. I did not give you any instruction how to use or how to select your sample. The only instruction I gave you is that it should be random. That's all. But I did not even give any restriction on that. So a survey is a study that collects data from a sample that is chosen to represent specific population. So we choose our sample to represent specific population. From that sample, with that sample, we conduct a survey. When we plan a survey, what do? We decide what population we want. And that's why I gave you different choices. When I gave you the projects, I gave you different choices, whether it is about the clothes, whether about the size and the height, the weight, the age, whatever. I give you choices. So you decide what population you want to describe or to study. And then you decide what you want to measure. So I gave you what you measure, but you make the decision, whether it is the height and the weight, whether it is the wage and the age, whether it is the number of hours of sleep and the GPA, whatever it is, you decide what to measure. And then you decide how you choose a sample from the population. So the first one and the second one we're not concerned with them that much or about them that much. But the third one is what we want to study, decide how to choose a sample from a population. And this is what we want to study today. Choosing an individual or choosing individuals from population who are easy to reach results in a convenience sample. You choose some people who are next to you. I asked you, for example, about how many hours people spend on their phone. And you just go to your friends and ask them, or your family members. That is convenience sampling. You did not really conduct a random sampling. You just looked at the people whom you can get the information from easily, and you use that information. That is called convenience sampling. So convenience sampling is when you are not trying to make it hard on yourself. You're doing it as easy as possible on yourself. It is convenient to you, so it's convenience sampling. So convenience sampling often produces unrepresentative data. You go to your friends who are near to you, it doesn't work. It doesn't represent the neighborhood, your neighborhood. It represents your family, probably, or represents your friends, the collective of your friends, but it does not represent the neighborhood because you did not ask anyone outside from your convenient people or those who are convenient to you. So that is, it produces that unrepresentative data. When we have unrepresentative data, that means the data does not represent the whole population that we want to study. It represents only a portion. It represents the sample itself. The design of a statistical study shows bias if it is likely to underestimate or likely overestimate the value you want. You ask your friends about their GPA, probably they will give you higher numbers than that what they really have. They will give you some low numbers, whatever it is. So that is a bias in here, and it is not really correct, because it will give you the wrong estimate and you end up with the wrong results. So you have to be very careful not to use convenience sampling. The other sampling that is there is, well, this one here, convenience sampling will almost always result in bias, but so will some other sampling methods. What other sampling methods? we have voluntary response sampling. You want to study for example, the reaction of people to a new CD or new song. And you don't have enough people to ask. So what you do is you put on Facebook or on Instagram, or you send email, or you text message everybody whom is available outside in the internet or in the world, and you just put the song there and you tell them, what do you think about this song? A lot of people will not respond. Some people will respond. Those who respond, they are having the voluntary response. They are voluntarily responding to your survey. Those who don't respond, they are voluntarily not responding to your survey. So this is called voluntary response sampling. It allows people to choose whether to answer or to be part of your survey or not, whether to accept the invitation or to reject the invitation. So this is voluntary response sampling. This sampling also, it results or it ends in a bias. So most internet polls, call-in, text-in, write-in polls rely on voluntary response sampling. People who self-participate or who self-select to participate in such surveys are usually not representative of some larger population of interest. Probably those who don't like your song will never answer you, will never reply to you. Only those who like the song will say, yes, we like it. Probably some people will be jealous not to say that we like your song. So what they're gonna do, they will not respond to you, and only those who do not like the song will respond to you. So voluntary response is not really representative. It is a biased response also. So the sample chosen by chance rules out both favoritism by the sampler and self-selection by response. So we're going to be looking now at the simple random sampling. So simple random sampling is the third type. So what we did convenience, okay? We did the voluntary response sampling, and now we're going to be looking at the simple random sampling, SRS. SRS is chosen randomly using a certain type of technology or certain type of random measurement or random selection, okay? And that random selection is random sampling. When it is simple, when we say simple random sampling, it is a simple way of selecting a sample. How do we select a sample in here? It involves using a chance process to determine which members of a population are included in the sample. And when we talk about SRS, it has to have a certain size N, such a way that every group of N individuals in the population has an equal chance to be selected as the sample. So SRS can be one sample, can be many samples. If you have 10 people, you can choose many times 5 people from those 10. You have from 1 to 10, you can choose 5, you can choose 1, 3, 7, 8, and 9, you can choose 2, 4, 6, 7, you can choose. So you, from 10 people, you can choose many samples. And that's what we will be doing later on in combination and permutation. So we'll be looking at the combination and permutation, how we can, how many samples we can generate when we have a certain number of people in a small sample or in a certain sample of population. Okay, so how to choose an SRS technology? The first thing is, if I have 10 people, I'm gonna label them from 1 to 10. And then randomize, use random number generator. Okay, some people will say, okay, we're gonna write the numbers, put them in a hat, put the papers in a hat and just mix those numbers and have a person select 5 and to get the sample. That's a fine. But there is another way, is to use the table or random table or random number table, or to use the calculator to generate, or to use the computer to generate random numbers. And We'll show later on how to use that. So randomize, we use random number generator. And then we choose the individual that correspond to the randomly selected integers. How to choose an SRS with table D. Table D, I did not, I think I shared with you the table, but I will share it for sure this time and make sure that it's available to you. So give each number in the population from 1 to 10 supposedly. If we use from 1 to 10, then we're going to be using 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, and so on. Then we randomize. We look at the table, and anything that is in the table that corresponds to, we select a row or a column, and anything in that row or in that column that in that table or in that in those numbers that are corresponding to the numbers we gave to our sample, we select them. And then we select the numbers. Let's look at an example here. How to choose an SRS. We have here, we're going to be taking from the table only one line, line 130, and we want to choose 4 hotels from among this list of hotels. We want to choose them for a certain experience or experiment or whatever. How do we choose the 4 hotels? Using the SRS from 28 hotels. The row of the table or the line of the table looks like this. The table looks, it goes this way also. But these are the rows, and then the columns are similar to this. So what we're going to do is we're going to, since there is 1, so we start with 0, 1. So we're going to divide this. We separate every 2 digits, separate them from each other, like this here. So we have 69, 05, 16, and so on. We keep on doing, separating in 2 digits. And what we do is we're going to look at the numbers, which numbers correspond to what we have here in the table. So 69 is above 28, so we're going to be selecting it. So this is gone. Then we have 05. 05 is Beach Castle. We select that. 16, it's Radisson, and we're going to select that. 48 is beyond 28 or above 28, so we're not going to select it. And then we have 17. 17 is repeated 3 times, so we're going to take one of them, but we consider all the 3 at once. So we're going to take the 17. 87 is far. 17 we already done. 40 is beyond that. 95 and so on. So we deselect all those that are not in the interval we have. And then we have 20. 20 is the last one. So this is how we select the 4 hotels from among a list. I hope that everyone got the idea how to select that. And so other sampling methods, there is the stratified sampling method, and there is the other method. So strata method are groups of individuals, like classrooms, for example, okay? So we have classrooms in each grade, like the 9th grade, 12th grade, or whatever. In the 12th grade, we have 4 classes, and those classes, each of them is a strata. Each class is a strata. And what we need to do when we take a sample, or we want to sample from those classes, is we take a sample SRS from each of them, and then combine those samples together so that we have the sample about the whole grade, the grade of 9th grade. Okay. So that is the strata or stratified random sampling. We select the sample by choosing an SRS from each stratum and combining the SRS into one overall sample. So stratified random sampling works best when the individuals in each stratum are similar with respect to what we want to measure, whether it is a language, whether it is the religion, whether it is whatever it is, or the income, whatever it is, the strata has to, the people of the strata should be in similar, they share similar thing, whether all of them have the income and so on and so forth. So we can choose strata that have similar responses within strata, but different responses between stratas. Probably we have this from the sample, they have the, in each stratum or in each classroom, we have responses that are similar. But from the other classes, they may not be similar. So it is not a problem for us. It will give us more estimate. It will give us more accurate estimate. So that is a strata. Now the other one is called the cluster. We have in the ninth grade, we have 4 classrooms or classes, and we want to take a sample from the ninth grade. So instead of taking a sample from each class, we will make SRS among the 4 classes. What do we mean? We say number 1, 2, 3, 4, and we use the table to choose one of them. Or we put the numbers in a hat and we choose one of the classes. Once the class is selected, we're going to be using the census for that class, and that is called the cluster sampling. Okay, so cluster sampling is taking a stratum from the strata, and we use that stratum, we use the census with that strata to find or to get our survey and results. So a cluster is a group of individuals, and the cluster sampling, we select a sample by randomly choosing a cluster, and include each member on that cluster. So if we have many grades, like from 9th grade and 12th grade, we're going to be taking one class from each of them, or selecting an SRS class from each of those grades. And then we put those classes together to have the sample from the school. So these are the different types of choosing the samples. And something may go wrong, mainly when it is the convenience or when it is the voluntary response. However, there is also the undercoverage. The undercoverage is when you cannot have enough people to cover certain areas. For example, you don't have enough people in the 12th grade. You don't have enough people in one of the classes to cover everything. So that is under coverage. You cannot cover everyone. So in the population, the non-response occurs when the individual chooses not to respond or to answer or to reply to your survey. And then the response bias, when you ask people about their grades or about their GPA, they don't give you the right thing. They just give you something that they made up, and that is a bias response. So they don't give you accurate results or accurate answers. They give you something that is made up, that is not true. You ask them about their income, and they just give you something. They want to show that they are underpaid if they are applying, for example, for social, whatever, social assistance, or they want to show off when they are with certain groups. So response bias, they do it on purpose. Okay, these are the different types of choosing, or different types of methods of choosing a sample. And we're done with this section. So I did this last time, and I just want to go over it to make sure that everyone